Hello and welcome everybody. I'm James Leichter with Aptora, and this is another monthly webinar. We're going to be talking basically about the good, better, best concept in mobile. We have recently released an update in our mobile app that has a lot of new features and capabilities for what I'm calling for now the good, better, best concept. I want to tell you though where those design changes came from. They came from you. Well, maybe not you, unless you guys and gals happen to be out there that helped us. But it was changes that were asked for by users. They talked to their plumbers, HVAC technicians, maybe some electricians. I don't remember for sure. Getting input on what needs to be changed, and we made those changes. And I wanted to talk to you about those changes today. But I also wanted to cover the whole concept of setting up equipment, installation scenarios, and things like that, because this is all about training more than it is about letting you know what's new. And it's more training than it is PR. I'll put it that way. Okay, so let's first talk about the good, better, best concept, as I'll call it. It's really called, well, there's no right or wrong, but it's really called tier pricing, I think. In corporate America, the suit and ties say tier pricing, and you and I might call that good, better, best, which is fine. Anytime you offer a certain tier, it could be the ultimate, it could be the best, whatever, you might refer to that as tier pricing, and you're going to hear me say tier pricing. Wanted to let you know where that came from. I'm not a fan at all of using tier pricing when it comes to service work, repair work, demand service. I am a big fan offering tier pricing when it comes to installations, and that would be HVAC equipment installations, whole systems, parts of systems. I'm also a big fan of doing that when you are in the plumbing or electrical industry and you're selling fixtures. You might have a good, better, best faucet, garbage disposal. You might have a good, better, best outdoor LED light, for example. But when it comes to service, I don't really have a lot of time to be able to get into my philosophy on that. I've written about it. It's in our blog, I'm sure. But basically, long story made short, service technicians are a lot like the doctor in an emergency room. We're not going to offer the patient a good, better, best scenario. We are going to do what we have to put that person back together. And in our case, it's the equipment. So we're going to go out to their home and we're going to address whatever the complaint was. Let's say it was no cooling. When we arrive, our job is to restore cooling at a bare minimum, to restore cooling the way it was moments before it stopped working. And that would be the absolute required repairs. And that's what I call it. That's a subtotal item. That's what we put on our work order. When we're finished with that, and that money has basically been collected, we haven't physically collected it yet, but mentally the money is already spent in the customer's mind. Once we do that and the system's up and running, we then evaluate the system for highly recommended repairs, solutions, extras, whatever. So we get the system running the way it was moments before it failed. Then we run the system and we give an honest assessment of what else would bring value to that customer's equipment, such as cleaning the evaporator coil. We might say that your evaporator coil is dirty. It was dirty before the failure, but that dirty evaporator coil is cutting efficiency, costing you more money. It's probably hurting the system, meaning the system will last as long. Theoretically, it won't last as long as it would otherwise. And it's cutting capacity, and all that's true. And then you would offer to clean that evaporator coil or whatever else. And those would be the highly recommended repairs. All right, so that's all I have to say about service, because that's not what this is about. I've done whole segments on that. What I want to talk about now is offering a good, a better, a best, a fantastic, an ultimate, whatever you call it, option for equipment, fixtures, etc. And I'll show you some of the theory that I have, my personal theory on it, and I'll show you how to set it up in the software. Now, if you've heard me say this before, the first thing you have to think about, you know I love paper systems, right? I come from the old bookkeeping, accounting systems that were paper. I love them to this day. I always encourage people I talk to, clients I work with, classes I address, always think about the paper way of doing things. So how did we do these things 100 years ago when I was young? Like this. We had a 14-inch proposal, not 12, 14, not 11 and a half, 14. We had a proposal like this, and we wrote good, better, and best, whatever labels we wanted to use, and we wrote three of these. So you had in front of you 3 quote-unquote bids, which is kind of what they're thinking, right? They're thinking, oh, I have 3 bids. And we used a system that was really easy to fill out, check boxes rather than writing things down. So this was our proposal, and there's the terms and conditions, and we would give you at least 3 of these when we were giving you a price on a new system. And we would again label it good, better, best. We didn't have a good, better, best checkbox. We wanted to write it on there with a marker, and we wrote it on there with a marker, good, better, best. And we did use those terms back then. I don't use those terms now, but I did back then. So that's the paper method. And I believe, if you've come to these before, I believe that the job of our software, for the most part, is to simply make the old way, the paper way, easier. Make it easier. And that's really what software does, is it takes an existing bookkeeping system and makes it easier. What is difficult is when you don't have answers to any of those things and you're starting from scratch. So if you have not done the good, better, best, if you haven't answered a lot of good, better, best type setup questions, then don't blame the software. The software might seem hard to use, but a lot of what you're going through is making the decision on what to call it and what to offer, etc. So here's how I'd recommend starting with a long, boring Word document. All right, so here's mine. This is what I created for clients that I coach with. This may not work for you. You may not like it. It's just for you to consider and to get you thinking about how you would create yours. Because again, before you can really use anybody's software, including Aptora's Total Office Manager or Aptora 360, before you can use that software, you really have to think about how would we do this manually. So here's what we went through. We went through, well, first of all, what is the guiding principle behind this whole tiered pricing system? And we write that down. You could skip that part. The general rules, you could skip that part. But what constitutes the better system, the worst system, you wouldn't call it that, the least expensive system, etc.? Well, the first thing you probably ought to do is think about your customer-facing tier names. You've heard me say good, better, best, and I told you that that's what we used to call it. We moved on. We do it differently now. Well, now we call it the ultimate tier. We call it the optimum, the supreme, the prestige, and the value tier. So we offer 4. You can offer 3 or 5 or 2 or 10, whatever you like. We found that 5 was best because oftentimes people want to pick something towards the middle upper. And that's probably the system that you're trying to sell the most, is the upper middle system. But 5 seems to be a good number. You can have as many as you'd like. I'm just giving you something to think about. No matter what you do, though, you have to, in my opinion, document it, write it down, come up with the official terms that your company uses, and then define them. Define them with a customer positioning statement first. So the ultimate tier, super efficient, maximum comfort, carefree warranty. This is the best possible system the company offers. It's the best we know how to install. That's the best. Now, the opposite of that is the value tier, biggest savings advantage for you. It's the lowest legal efficiency system the company will professionally install, size, permit, and commission properly. So the statement we're making is this is the least efficient we can legally offer you. Now, you decide on your own positioning statements, but think about it like this. This is designed for the customer to read. You want to give it a customer sales marketing oriented name, and you want to create a positioning statement designed for them to see. Let me give you like one more example and I'll move on. The Supreme tier. Savings plus better comfort. The Balanced, most popular tier for customers who want better comfort and efficiency at a practical price. Now, I even said it's our most popular plan, and you could picture that with a little star above it or something that says the most popular plan, most popular choice, that type of thing. So that is tiered pricing. Now, software companies do that. HVAC companies do that. Lots of companies do that. Typically, again, we call it good, better, best. The term that I'm using is tier. So we have a rules summary statement in this table. How do you come up with the ultimate, James? How do I know? How do I come up with the optimum? I was always asked that. Well, let's create the rules. So the ultimate is variable speed communicating AC with 95% or better modulating or two-stage variable speed gas furnace. The heat pump version is, and then I also cite the objectives for the rules. So that way, everyone knows, regardless of the brand, and you would tweak this, by the way, for the brand. I've tweaked this for a certain brand. I won't mention because there's probably no reason to, but you tweak it for a certain brand if you need to, but your rules should apply regardless of what brand you are offering. And you can see these are generic enough that it really doesn't matter what brand, but you might have to tweak it slightly because a certain brand stops at a certain ear rating. All right, so there's your rule summary for your tiers. Well, now it gets pretty easy. Once I have my rules, I have my names, I have my positioning statement, I have my rules. Well, I could hand this off to somebody and let them do the work. I've laid it out and someone else now could finish this. They could start creating equipment for me, entering equipment into Total Office Manager, creating group items, etc. But let's get into some more detailed definitions just for training purposes. The ultimate tier, what is it? Well, I lay out the cooling efficiency target, the heat pump target, compressor type, variable speed, inverter. The blower is ECM. It's gas furnace, 95% plus, modulating, preferred. I say preferred because a certain brand might not offer that, etc. And then we do the same thing with the optimum tier, and the supreme tier, and the prestige tier, and the value tier. All right, so once we do that, now the next thing probably is I call my supplier and ask, can you get me all this equipment in a file that I can import into my software? Yes, we can, and I would import that into Total Office Manager. And we're about to get into that part in a minute, but I thought I'd go ahead and finish up this Word document so you can see rather how I finished it. I'm asked often whether or not this tiered selection system will influence what people end up buying. And I looked into that, and there's a lot of research available for you to read if you would like, but the short answer is yes, it does influence people. The way you word these, present them, the interest rates that you offer, the down payments that you offer, etc., will influence which ones people buy. It won't guarantee it, but retail scientists know that you can influence people's decision by how you design an end cap in the store, by what items you put on sale, which ones are not on sale, where they're positioned in the store, colors used, etc. They know that influences people, and we know that too. So we should try to take advantage of some of that science. Like I said, it's available, it's out there, but ultimately, yes, you can influence people by the way you present these and word them. So that's the bottom line for you is yes, you can. Now, here, sneaking ahead a little bit, here is how you might structure your down payment, your terms, and there's the intent, what I'm trying to do with it. So the ultimate system might be somewhere between, say, $99 down or 0%. You might offer 96 to 120 months, and the interest rate would be as low as possible because your margins are as high as they can be. This is the most profitable system for you to sell. So not only is the dollar amount the highest, but the gross profit margin percent is the highest. That's the one you're trying to sell. Ultimately, though, you know you're going to be selling the Supreme if that's the most popular one. So you're going to be creating a down payment, terms, a financing package that's palatable, that's attractive, but it won't be your best because you really would like to steer people towards the ultimate. Set it up any way you like. I mean, it's totally up to you, but I'm just pointing out the approach that I like to take, and that is let's get it all on paper. If you asked me to set up your software for good, better, best, it would take approximately an entire day. It's that hard. No, it's not. It's not hard at all. Here's what typically happens. I might ask a question that could be answered with a yes or a no or a 1 or a 2 or a 5 or a 10%, and that'll turn into a 30-minute conversation. We might talk for 30 minutes about the names to use, another hour about the positioning statements, a couple more hours about percents, down, interest rate, bank activity, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what took the entire day. The setup, if I had instructions like this, the setup would be just minutes. It would just take minutes. This document lays it all out, and here's how the setup would look in mobile. We have work to do in Total Office Manager for sure, yes, but to set up the good, better, best in mobile is really just a matter of going to this one place and entering these numbers. And since these numbers were already explained to me and laid out to me in a Word document, it wasn't hard for me to just go into the software and start typing this stuff in to create what you see on that screen there is, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes at the most. 5 minutes, I'm thinking. So the setup is real easy once you decide on everything in your head and put it on paper. All right, so let's talk about the setup. How do we do it? Let me get Total Office Manager opened and put over here. All right, so I'll kind of start at the beginning, give you a little more information than you really have to have, but I think this is important. I like to start with a good list of categories because categories are very helpful to find things. A big complaint we get on mobile is I can't find anything. Can't find what? Can't find parts, can't find equipment. It's hard to find anything. Well, categories really help with that. So it's important to create categories, and you'll find your category list right here. Let's open up mine. Now what you're looking at here is a training database. This is a template that I use to give people who are starting from scratch. We would give you this if you were starting from scratch. You of course are not. But I also use it for training because it's set up the best way I can possibly set it up, at least pragmatically. So what I have in my item category list are categories for HVAC, service, and these are flat rate categories. How do I know? Well, let me resize these columns. All right. So these are services and labor, these categories, flat rate, basically. And then here's my equipment installs, solar and generator, air distribution, and then now we're finally getting into parts and materials. Notice how it starts, parts and materials, air distribution. And I'm going to keep scrolling, and HVAC equipment. Now this isn't quite finished right here, but I have a parent called HVAC equipment, and underneath that, let's open that up. I just found a mistake. I changed that and then forgot to change it back. All right, so HVAC equipment, under that I have air handler, forced air ducted, gas furnace, heat pump, installation accessories, and I could go on. I'll open one of these up to show you quickly how you might do it. So you would type in your category name, make it a subcategory if you'd like. The what best describes, select equipment, and then give it a description, so that a novice would understand what that meant. And I neglected to put a description in mine. I really should. And then you can add an image to that if you'd like to, an image to associate with that category, but you don't have to. Do that later. Don't let that hold you up. But you do want to create as many categories as you need for your equipment when you start entering the equipment. Makes it a whole lot easier to find things, by the way. Otherwise, you have to remember model numbers and so forth. Imagine just filtering by air handlers, and that's all you're looking at is your company's air handlers, and you could say, only show me what's in stock or only show me what we stock, and you don't have a lot to choose from. Makes it a lot easier. So how do we enter the equipment? The easiest way to enter equipment is to go to File, go to Company Utilities, go to Import, and just import the equipment. And you might have to open it and tweak it a bit. You probably, well, almost certainly will, but it's way faster than doing it by hand. But what's the fun in making it easy when we can do it by hand and learn a lot? So let's do that. I'm going to go to Lists, and I'm going to go to my Invoice Items list, and I'll show you what I started here. Now I have a very limited set of data because this is for training purposes, and this is a starter template. This has got the chart of accounts, the categories, and all that, but there's very little real data. So you would have a lot more information in here than I do at the moment. I have a piece of equipment set up just for this reason. Let's open that up. Now imagine for a moment this is a heat pump or a gas furnace, air handler. It could be anything. The type is serialized. The category, in this case, is heat pump. Where did it come from? Those categories I just showed you. So we've got heat pump. I gave it a name, example equipment 5, example equipment for training, heat pump. The estimated cost, $3,600. The markup method, ultimate equipment. That's important. Let's go to company and go to our price level list, and I'll show you how we created that. We have in this list a markup for prestige, for supreme, for ultimate, for value, for the optimum. Those are the tiers that I was just talking about. We need to create a markup method, a way of pricing each tier. And the way we're going to do that is based on gross profit margin. So let's open up the ultimate, and you can see I gave it a name of ultimate equipment. I added equipment so it was clear. And I selected the method by gross profit margin percent, typed in 56. That means that the retail price will achieve a 56% gross profit margin on this piece of equipment. Not the whole job, but on this piece of equipment. So when I price my ultimate system, the equipment anyway is going to have a 56% gross profit margin. The labor could be something different. The materials, something different. Parts, something different. But the equipment, 56%. How did I arrive at that 56%? A little bit of guesswork, to be honest with you, with experience, but a lot of accounting, analyzing the accounting, trying to achieve a certain net profit. You want a higher net profit on the ultimate system than you do on something less than the ultimate system. So a little bit of it is guesswork, but even if you do guess, you're monitoring your financials, your income statement specifically, and you're making adjustments to that gross profit margin depending on what the job costing information is telling you. You want a markup method for each of your tiers. That's the bottom line. Okay, so you can see I picked the ultimate equipment markup method right there. It suggested a retail price of $81.81.82 based on the estimated cost, which is could have been in your import file when you imported this. You haven't bought any of them yet. When you do buy them, then it knows exactly what you're paying. But for now, it's basing it on the estimated cost, and I just simply click this button to move that to the retail price, and that is the retail price. You can type in the labor minutes to install this piece of equipment, your labor cost if you'd like to, but something important is to select the equipment type. Right here where it says equipment type, be sure to select the proper type and the manufacturer if you'd like, and who you prefer buying it from. Typically, if it's equipment, you're getting it from one specific place. But let me show you the value of the equipment type. If you pick the equipment type, then in the accounting tab, it will expose a couple of fields, like cooling capacity and SEER2 rated. It gets that from your selection here. So if I were to select gas furnace, it would change to the appropriate fields for a gas furnace. Now be sure your income account and your COGS account and your asset account are correct. You'll see that I have an income account for equipment, a COGS account for equipment specifically, not just sales or install or whatever. I want specifically to know the income for my equipment, and I'll know that by department, won't I? And I want to know my COGS for equipment. And finally, I want an asset account for equipment. I've got two inventory accounts, parts and material and serialized equipment. I want those separate. All right, so once you type in your cooling capacity, SEER rating, and these things, you are ready to call it good. You've got your first piece of equipment. The next thing you want to do is find the matching evaporator coil. You want to install, or pardon me, you want to enter your gas furnace, your air handlers, thermostats, things like that. And it's time to create a group item to group those all up. But before I do, let me show you how I might create another serialized piece of equipment. Now that I've got this correct, maybe I want example equipment number 4. So I want to put in a 5-ton unit or a 3-ton, and I don't want to start from scratch. I don't have to. I'll go to Menu, Create, Copy. Right there, create a copy. Are you sure you want to create a copy? Yes, I'm sure. So we'll create a copy of this record, and it will be exact. And if I tried to hit save and close, it wouldn't let me. It would say that I need a unique number. So I'll give it a unique number first before I forget. Make it a 4. And we'll pretend like these aren't 3,600. These are, I don't know, 3,200. And you'll notice that the suggested retail price changed, but the retail price did not. That was on purpose. That's by design. I need to tell it it's okay to change it. So I click that little button right there, and that took care of it. And then I go to inventory, and I don't use this. I don't want to enter any in inventory. I want to do that through purchasing. Go to the accounting tab, and rather than 4, we'll pretend like this is a 3.5 ton for the heck of it. Or it could even be the 4 ton, but it's just less expensive. So actually, yeah, let me do that. I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to 4. And the SEER rating on this one is maybe, it's an 18. Yeah. All right, so I have basically a good and a better. That's what I'm beginning to construct here, a good and a better. And that's it. I can hit save and close. Now, one thing that you might want to do, I would recommend it, is get images from the manufacturer, ask them to send them to you, or you'll have to go get them from their website, but they should probably do that for you, right? That's what you're paying all that money for. Click Menu and click Image, and a form will pop up. Mine came up on the other screen. Let me go grab it. So a form will pop up like this, and then you can add the image, and you can have 10 images. So you just simply grab an empty slot and click select and go find another image for it. You want to make sure that one of them has been marked as a primary image, and that's the one that'll show up by default when you start presenting. And click OK and do all your images. So get those images in there too. Now let's hit save and close. I'm going to right click and do a new item. And click group. And by the way, everything you've seen so far is already part of the software. None of this is really new. All right, so I have a group item. I'll give it a name of Ultimate, and I'll give it a description of Ultimate. And in real life, I'd give it a better description. I'd go into menu and I'd add notes. And the notes would have lots of information about the Ultimate unit why it's the ultimate, etc. But I'm just being quick here for you. Give it a name. Then I go to the Group tab and I add items. So let's click that, and I will come down to the example equipment 5, grab it. I might have other things I want to add, like a thermostat or something like that, and you probably would. Or you might have like a options package that you would add to this. The options package could be separate, but I have example options in here. I'll grab that one. Now, as you might know, you can override the pricing on these. Check the little box here, override the retail price if you want to. Come back to the general tab. You can see the retail amount is calculated. I've got an idea on labor minutes. All right, so that is the ultimate package. Normally, again, I'd give it a much better description. I would go to menu. I would add notes. I certainly would go to images, and I'd add an image, and I'm just going to do that real quick. I will add that image. There we go. It's happy with that. All right, so I got an image in there, which we'll see in a sec. And it's not a great image, so don't get too excited. You really want to do a good job on your images. Get your images in there. All right, save and close. So that's done. Now, granted, I have a whole lot more to do, but if I import that information, then it's a matter of just creating groups and fine-tuning it. Don't forget the copy feature. Once you've made some of these, the copy feature allows you to go very quickly. By the way, one thing I forgot about, and I'm just going to go add it. Let's go back to the group item, just for training purposes. I'm going to put in my labor. Now, all of my labor, remember I said a common complaint is you can't find anything in your software. Well, if I want to go find labor, I'm just going to type in the word labor. And so there's labor install regular, and I have install overtime and all that, but if you take the time to give things categories, then that makes it easy. If you number things in a predictable, consistent manner, like labor always starts with labor, service agreements always start with SA, then it makes it so much easier. So I'm going to say, as far as labor is concerned, how many minutes? Well, it tells me there's 211 minutes, or 210. So I'm going to go, okay, that's fine, 210, that's $525 retail for my labor. And now I've got my labor in there. Save and close. So now it's set. Now that thing's ready to be sold. Okay, so that is it in Total Office Manager. I just do that, 50 more times maybe? And I've got everything ready to be sold. And now we need to think about setting up mobile. Oh, by the way, I get asked a lot on the markups. How did you come up with those markups? And I told you that it was a little bit of guesswork in some cases, because I might not have good data, and it was a little bit of accounting. I got logged out. Let me log back in. If you go out on the internet, like you go to our website, myflatratesoftware.com, you can come down here without an account. You can do this for free. But you can come down to free resources, go to calculators, go to your dual overhead rate calculator here. Make that bigger. Go into this, and you can type in a few pieces of information. You should have this information if you own Total Office Manager, and you want to do this by department. So you want to look at your income statement for the department that you're interested in. In our case, it would be the install department. Put in just 3 numbers, and this will tell you what your labor and material markups need to be. So you'll have your material markup to break even, you'll have your labor markup to break even, and then you add for net profit. And that is how I came up with those multipliers, that gross profit margin. This tells me what my gross profit margin needs to be to break even. It doesn't matter what tier. And then I might have a 5% net profit adder for the lowest tier, and I might have a 25% or 22% net profit adder for the highest tier. That's how I made it happen. I used my accounting reports, and I said sometimes I have to guess because a client may not have good data, but that's the advantage of good data. Use a calculator like this, you can dial it in pretty close to perfect. Let's go into mobile and talk about how to set things up. Here I am in mobile. I'm going to click the hamburger menu. This is the main page when you log in. I'll click more. And then, it has to wake up because it's been sitting here for a while. So it didn't log me out, but it went to sleep. Takes a minute to kind of wake up. Now I'm in more lists. I'll go to settings, investment guide. And then up here at the top, it's easy to miss. It says general. Let's switch that to cart types. And now you'll see what you saw earlier. You might remember a screenshot that looked just like this. You set up your tiers. Now, we don't use the term in here, tiers. I think that we thought about it. We almost switched it. We weren't sure it was worth it because I could picture people thinking that a lot of stuff changed. We've always called it cart type, so we left it alone. But this might as well say tier type right there. Add tier type. This is where you add your tiers, your offerings. And you can see that I have a Band-Aid approach that I like to use sometimes. Do the bare minimum safe option. And if you give us $100 down, then we'll give you 3 months to pay, kind of thing. So if somebody said, I can't afford it, I can't afford to fix it. Oh, that's okay, I understand. This, by the way, started in the COVID times. We understand, we have a special program. It's just, if you can come up with $100 today, then you can pay us the rest in 3 payments over the next 3 months. So that's the approach. You don't have to do that, but I wanted to explain it, why it was sitting there. So the rest of it you've seen, the ultimate, the optimum, the supreme, the prestige, the value. But notice the approach here. The ultimate has the lowest down payment, the lowest interest rate, and the longest months. So the ultimate, which is the most expensive, you only have to give me, in my example, $99 down. And then it's a 4.99% interest for 96 months. Or whatever you offer. This is just an example. But the thing to remember is the best financing comes with the best package. Many companies do that in reverse. What you're trying to do is get somebody who is cash poor, and you can be rich and be cash poor, by the way. Keep that in mind, right? You could be cash floor and be very wealthy, and you're cash poor. You're trying to get the cash poor to spend more money. Not necessarily spend more money today, but spend more money ultimately and get a better system, and you have a higher net profit. So you're not only producing more gross profit dollars, but you're producing a higher net profit margin as well. So you're really supercharging your profits the more you move towards the ultimate tier. But that's how you get people off the value or the prestige, is give them better terms. If their credit is really bad, then they probably aren't going to be thinking about those. They're going to be thinking about these. If they have bad credit or don't want financing and can pay cash for these systems, you might consider a discount that you don't advertise or you don't make a big deal out of. So in other words, they might say, can I get a discount if I pay cash for the ultimate system because I don't want to finance? Then you might make the decision to do that. Keep in mind you have added net profit to give away, so you can afford it. This is the idea, though, on setup. You do not have to do it the way I did it. Again, it's just here for you to think about and consider, and it helps you understand what's possible. Once you set these up, you have these available to you when you make your proposal. So let's do that. Let's go back home and create an estimate. In fact, I think I'm going to skip that because I just noticed I have a work order. So let me grab this work order and open that. And I could have done this on an estimate, an invoice, a work order, wherever. What you're about to see can be done anywhere. We could start on a work order, We could create an estimate from the work order, create an invoice from that. We want to go to items, and somebody's already added some things. Let me get rid of them. I'm going to get rid of those. By the way, some of you have asked for a faster way to delete, and that seems really fast to me. But then I see people in a field with a screensaver and dirty fingers, and the screen's smaller, and they have to delete 18 things, so we're going to make that faster. Just thought I'd point that out. All right, so let's do add services. And I'll type in part of the word ultimate. And, oh, wait a minute. No, sorry. Not ultimate. See what I tell you about part numbers. It's really important to have the correct part numbers in here and know what they're like. I started to type in ultimate, but I didn't use that word in my part number or my description, because you might remember I just created an example for us to look at. So that's why it can seem like it's hard to find things. You're typing in a word that may not exist. Now, if I can't find it and I'm scrolling around looking for it, I can't find it, right? I don't know where it is. Then we're going to go up here where we have more options. Check that little box. More options. Well, now we can pick a category. So I can go to equipment, HVAC equipment, click on that, and pick the exact equipment that I'm looking for. You can pick the parent or pick one of the children, and that's how you can easily find what you're looking for. So let's just select the heat pump. And where's the heat pump? We had no heat pumps. All right, well, check this out. We picked the service button right here, add services, not add items. That's again an example of how hard it is to find things. Well, we have it set up where we have this services button, which is an option, and we tell the software, if you want to use the services button, it shows up. But the next thing you have to do is tell the software, what do you want to see when you click the services button? The only thing I have it set up to show is basically flat rate tasks. So I want to click the add items button. And that way I'm going to be able to see all the items. And when I scroll through here, then I can see my example equipment, like this one, where I didn't see it before. All right, so let's pick it, and I'll click add. And then let's pick the number 4 one. Gosh, you know what? I forgot which one I picked. I'm going to pick both again. I forgot. I'm talking, clicking, I don't remember. So I'm going to pick both again. And let's go back and see what I have on here. All right, I got equipment 5, equipment 4, equipment 5. Get rid of that one. Now, let's edit equipment 5, that system. Let's just edit that. Click the drop down. And I can change different things about this equipment. Not that important in this particular case, but if I have to draw from a certain warehouse or something, change the quantity, I can do that. And then I can also pick the cart type for this particular equipment, what cart to put it in. Now, what I should do is I really ought to use the group item instead of adding those individual pieces of equipment. So let's go to the group that we created, and we'll pick it instead. And I forgot what I called it. All right, I called it Ultimate. I guess that should have been easy to remember. Let's do a search for ultimate. Well, better add a few more words. There it is. All right, so ultimate. And yeah, I really did forget that. I'm not kidding. Sometimes I'm trying to make a point and I'll pretend like I didn't know I deleted something or couldn't find something, but I'm that much of an airhead. I really couldn't remember that. I forgot what I called it just from moments ago. All right, so now I've got the ultimate group on there. It's got 3 items in it. And then I can add another group item, which might have been the prestige. And I could add another group item, which could have been whatever tier you want. So you might pick all 5 tiers. That's how that works. And then we'll click the edit button, and I'll go ahead and identify this one as the ultimate and hit save. Now, just for illustrative purposes, I'm going to click add items again, and I'll grab the ultimate one more time. So it's in there a second time. Now, why did I do that? I'm pretending like I added another group, which is going to serve as not the ultimate, but another tier. So I'll click the button to edit, and that'll be the optimum. So I didn't take the time to add an ultimate and an optimum with you. We were watching me create the optimum or the ultimate, but I would add the optimum and all the others, as many tiers as I want to here. And now I can go to links, go to settings. I'm in work order print settings here. My type is a flat rate presentation. Do I want to show the items? Probably not. Do I want to show it like a time material, itemized? I probably want flat rate presentation. You can experiment if you're not sure. I can add my terms and my footer, go into settings. The thing I wanted to make sure to point out is if you go into settings, one option in settings now is to use the tiered pricing system. And we just call it good, better, best style. Yes, it was already set. So I have that set. And now, still in the work order, I can click print preview. And, oh, no logo. You definitely want a logo in yours. For some reason, I don't have a logo set up. You definitely want a logo put in there. But once you have your logo in there, you won't have that ugly blank space that I have. The presentation looks like this. There's some tweaking, but the presentation basically looks like this. There's the image that I selected. I told you it wasn't the greatest image in the world. I just wanted to put an image in there. That was the image I picked. And keep in mind, if I had picked 10 images, the one it shows is the one you mark as the default image to show. So the ultimate system is going to have one image, and the other system, the optimum system, would have a different image in real life. You wouldn't want the same. This would continue with a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, to however many you want. It would show you as many as you have to offer, and they just simply decline the one that they don't want. So they would decline 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of them and be left with, say, the ultimate. And there's their total investment down here. You can see the ultimate is totaled. The optimum is 0 because they declined it. And again, keep in mind it continues with as many tiers as you add to the items tab. So when you go to items and you select a tier, a cart type, that's what determines what shows up here, and that becomes your good, better, best offering. Now there's more you can do with it though. You can, from here, if you would prefer, you can create an estimate and have the estimate display this information. You could do one estimate for each tier, or you could do one estimate with all the tiers. You might remember in the old days, we believed that rather than have good, better, best on a single piece of paper, we wanted you to have 3 sheets of paper. But you can do it any way you want. You can create the estimate from the work order, copy the items over automatically, and have good, better, best, or whatever tiers you want on that estimate. You could also create a copy of that estimate and carry the items over and modify it so you end up with a good, better, best estimate. But again, to be clear, you could have one estimate with 2 or more tiers, or you can have multiple estimates with 1 or more tiers for that matter. But the process is the same. The basic process is the same. It's going to show you your different options here. Now, by the way, one feature we do not have currently, and we're in the process of adding it, is the financing activity. The down payment would get calculated, the payments would be calculated, and so forth. So that's coming. We already do that elsewhere in the app, but we don't do it in that little box, and we're going to make that box a little higher and slip that information in there in a future update. So the setup is creating your cart types, which are your different offerings, tiers as I call them, deciding on the down payment, the interest rate, the name you want to give it, etc. Put that in a document somewhere. Give that a lot of thought, because once you have that document, now that is added to your company's standard operating procedure, your company's SOP. So you want that document anyway. Once you have the document, the software is easy to set up. Start with your cart types. Then you want to enter the equipment into Total Office Manager. After you've entered the equipment, don't forget the copy feature, by the way. But once you enter the equipment, you start grouping it up. The groups become your good, better, best tiers, and that's your basic setup. It doesn't take as long as it seems. For those of you that have done it, if you use the copy feature, especially if you got started with an import, you know it went pretty quickly. Let me go back to Total Office Manager and make sure I point something out. Let's create an invoice. And I'll grab an example customer right there. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to assume that you know this. See my example customer? If I sell them a job and I want to track that job, and I want job costing on this particular install, then I really want to create a job. Now this example customer, I have them owning rental property, and this is a job for that piece of rental property. I'll pick that. So I want a job name, not for everyday service calls. I want a job name for installs, when I want job costing reports and there's a start and a finish and I can close it all out. Let's grab that ultimate system. Now it's easy to find it because there's not a lot in here, but I want to remind you of the lookup feature. So if I grab the lookup feature, this thing pops up and I can say, show me just groups. And then I would only see groups, and I can filter additionally if I want to. But I'm going to grab that group, click OK, put that on there. Now when I go to sell it, or pardon me, when I go to save it, it's going to want serial numbers. So I'm going to pick the serial number for the serialized equipment. And we don't have any in stock, so I have nothing to pick. But I got to have a serial number in there. And one thing I wanted to point out is once you add equipment, as you probably know, the software will say, you just sold serialized equipment. Do you want to add that serialized equipment to the customer's equipment list? And the answer is almost always yes. And then the next thing I wanted to point out was the copy serialized item info to clipboard. What that will do is it will copy the model number, the serial number, the make, etc. All that important information. It will copy it to your clipboard, and then you can paste it into anything you want. Most people, at a minimum, paste it into the details. You can show that to the customer or not. It's up to you, but it's really handy when there's rebates and things like that. There's paperwork to do, extended warranty paperwork, etc. But that copies specifically the serialized item info to your clipboard. So don't forget that that exists. Now, what about the other systems that you offered? How do you invoice those, or what do you do with them? You don't put those on the invoice. They remain on the work order. They remain on the estimate, whatever documents they were presented on. They would stay there. They're declined. The software knows they're declined, and that's good data to have. But when you go to create the invoice, you do not put those things on the invoice. They stay off the invoice. All right, so that's how it gets invoiced. And now you know how it gets presented on the work order. We have a little bit of time remaining, so why don't I go to links and go to create an estimate. And it's going to say, do you want to mark that work order as completed? Do you want to include the items? You decide. I'm going to grab the items, but leave it not completed. And it created my estimate. And now I'm looking at my estimate. And if I go to items, there it is. So I have an exact duplicate, but now it's an estimate. If I want to add details, such as a memo, to identify the ultimate or whatever tier it is, that would be very handy. You can do that. So put in a memo to describe it. Make any other changes you want. Again, this estimate could offer just one tier, or it could have many. And if we do a print preview, it's going to look just like what we saw in the work order, except it's an estimate. It'll be a very similar look. If I wanted to from here, I could make a copy of the estimate. And I mentioned that earlier. So now you make a copy, you copy everything over, and you might get rid of some of the tiers so that you can build a new estimate for each tier. But just don't forget about the copy button. Don't forget about the flow of the software. You would never want to create anything from scratch when the software has copy features all over the place. All right, now when you go to invoice it, it's just like you're used to. You're invoicing by creating the invoice from the work order, from the estimate. And if it's from the work order, then it's just going to invoice what was accepted and not declined. We've also added some additional information in the customer history. So if you go to customer history and look at the estimates, we have additional information in there to make it easy for you to figure out what estimate was the ultimate, what estimate belonged to what tier. So it's a lot easier to find that information now that we've added some additional fields to the customer history. Those fields also exist in the work order history. When you're in a work order, go to work order history. You'll see the estimates that belong to that work order, and you'll see the good, better, best, whatever you're calling your tiers. All right, before we open this up to Q&A, I thought I'd show you something that's coming out pretty soon that we're pretty proud of. In Total Office Manager, if you have the latest update and you click Reports, then you will see Contractor Compass 360. If you have permission to open the Executive Summary Report, then you have permission to open Contractor Compass 360. Otherwise, it'll just be disabled. And when you click it, it won't open because you don't have it, but you're going to get it. All right, so what you'll get is a message box that tells you it's really cool and it's coming. So in a future update, real soon, you'll have this, and when you click it, it'll open. But again, you have to have permission to run the executive summary. If you do, you can run this. And then what'll open is, well, let me just bring it over here. I'll just open it. All right, I just cheated the system and opened it. You always open it through the software, Total Office Manager. There's no icon, just like the Executive Summary Report or the Dispatch Board. You would open it from the software, and where did it go? It's on another screen. I'll just bring it over. And it might look like this. Now, the actual look depends. Like, for example, you might have 2 more tiles in this slot. I've got 4. I've got 4 KPIs. I actually call these top performance indicators that I keep my eye open for: gross profit, net profit before tax, cash flow, average ticket amount. You can add a line like I did, Mr. HVAC, the CEO's top performance indicators. So that's what they are right there. And then you can have additional indicators and whatever order you like. You can have a weather tile, different time zone tiles. That's my proprietary top performance indicator. You can control the order and so forth of these tiles. You can change themes if you'd like. A lot of people prefer the dark mode. If you go to preferences, there are extensive preferences in this program. So you have the ability to do a lot when it comes to controlling the tiles that you see, the look, the layout, etc. A lot of different options available to you. So it's very customizable. The existing Contractor Compass program, as you might know, it is based on Microsoft Excel. It's a separate program that you launch, you log into. This does not use Microsoft Excel. It is launched from Total Office Manager. It is very customizable, but you can't basically do anything you want like you could in Microsoft Excel if you knew how to do those things. But pretty much no one ever modified the code and formulas in Excel. They wanted something a little easier. You do have the ability to build your own KPIs. You can create your own math, for example, grab data, divide this by that, multiply by something else, order of operations, etc. All right, so be on the lookout for that. I think you'll enjoy having that. And with that, I think we will open this up to Q&A. Will, do we have any questions that need to be addressed?
We have no questions.
No questions. Well, I was either very clear, Will, which is unlikely, or people were bored to sleep. All right, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us about it. Remember, the good, better, best features that you saw are all in there. They're in the latest update. You should be able to use those right away. The only thing coming, as I mentioned, is the financing. The notes about the financing at the little bottom of the tile. It's already in mobile in another feature set, but we need to add it to those tiles. But otherwise, everything you didn't even see that. Everything you saw is in there right now. And Contractor Compass 360 is finished. Some people have it. It'll be rolled out to you hopefully soon, and we look forward to hearing what you think about that. If you'd like, you can already go to our website, go to the help topic, Contractor Compass 360, and read about it if you'd like to get a head start on seeing what it can do. Otherwise, it should be in your hands pretty soon. Will, one final call? No questions? All right. Well, on behalf of everyone here at Aptora, we really appreciate you. You're the only reason why we exist, as true with your customers and your company. Thanks for coming, and like always, I want to thank everyone behind the camera for making it possible. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.